This shows that if we model the game as a two-player simultaneous move game, it is not going to work. We can never win this game. The opposition can never win this game if they would to employ a simultaneous move game. Okay, so obviously that's a problem, but as a mathematician, you think of new ideas which you can circumvent the problem that we have over here. And the main idea we're going to use is the asymmetry of information. Okay, this is the concept that we introduce in order to create a strategy that the opposition can use to win this game. Okay, asymmetry of information, what does that mean? This means that the two players will enter the game with different levels of information. Okay, so where did this idea come about? Well, I was sitting down, watching TV and I was thinking about it. This game of the opposition fighting against the PAP is something like this. You got a fleet of battleships, in which case is the PAP, fighting against a squad of destroyers. Okay, now obviously that is not going to work. They're going to go into the battle, they're going to go into the ocean, the fleet of battleships is going to destroy the squad of destroyers. And that is what it means when the opposition can't win when you stick to a simultaneous move game. It's not going to work. Okay, but what can, in this illustration, what can the squad of destroyers do? They can send an underwater team of Navy SEALs to plant C4 into the battleships and get them destroyed. What are some of the features of this underwater squad of Marines? Well, it's cost effective. Okay, their purpose is intent of being undetected and to destroy the battleships. Okay, like I said just now, they're undetected, so the battleships can't anticipate such a move that is gonna go and destroy them. Okay, and number two, it works. Okay, it works. That's the most important thing. So I was thinking to myself that, okay, so we need some sort of strategy which the opposition can use, which has these three features. It is cost effective, it works, and it's undetectable. And I just thought to myself that maybe this strategy that they can use involves information, specifically the asymmetry of information. Okay, so if the opposition can somehow enter battle with the PAP having an information advantage, then maybe they stand a chance. Okay, so what form would this information take? Okay, so I was thinking again, and I was thinking about the US elections because I studied in the US, and I remember, I think in the 2008 elections, it was John McCain versus George W. Bush. And those of you familiar with the US elections, there's this idea of the popularity vote. Okay, in US elections, they go by the electoral vote for you to win the presidency. Okay, the electoral vote is basically votes among the states, similar to the constituencies over here. But a few months going to the election, which is November, they have all these popularity votes. Basically, they poll the public and tell them which president would you vote for. Okay, and sometimes there's this phenomena that the president that has the higher popularity vote, maybe a month into the election, ends up losing the election. Okay? But what's important here is that the popularity vote conveys certain information which tells the running presidents, okay, how are they going to fare if the election takes place today? I was reading the news in Yahoo SG, I was watching Channel News Asia. I noticed that in Singapore, we do not have this feature of the popularity vote. We do not poll the audience and say that, okay, right now, who would you vote for? Okay, there isn't this phenomenon, there isn't this concept, this idea. So I was thinking that, okay, maybe the opposition can capitalize on that. Maybe, just maybe, if they knew how the audience felt at a certain time about them right now, and because we're dealing, because the election is 3 days from now. So how, if they could somehow get that information, maybe they can use that information to their advantage. Okay, so it's the asymmetry of information. Okay, right now, so what is this information we're talking about? I define this information as a value P, okay, very simple, okay, which is not labeled over here, but is the value P. Now this P is gonna be a real number from 0 to 1, and the value P tells us the portion of the public which would vote for the opposition if the voting was done today, okay? Now obviously, since we're dealing with majority vote, if P is more than 0.5, that means the opposition wins, the opposition is in the lead. If P is less than 0.5, it means that the opposition is not in the lead, the PAP is in the lead. So as you can see, this value of P is actually quite important because it splits the opposition into two states. One state means that they are in an advantageous position, P greater than 0.5, and the second state means that they are at a disadvantageous position, P is less than 0.5. Right, so now asymmetry of information, it would split the opposition into two states, one in which they have an advantage position and one they have a disadvantage position. Okay? Since we're dealing with information, I just want to make a quick note. When we say something like the information is good, it means that if you reveal the information, it's to your benefit, and when we say to your benefit, it means that your payouts increase. Okay, makes sense. Okay, and then later when we introduce, because this whole idea of game theory is to introduce the strategy of signaling and screening. Signaling means that you purposely signal this information that you have so that you can actually gain in your payoffs. Okay, screening, it means that you try to draw information from your opponent which will work to your advantage. Okay, but these ideas of screening and signaling will come later once we talk about this asymmetry of information in which the opposition can use to work to make things in your favor. Okay, so asymmetry of information, it's captured in the value of P. P is the number between 0 and 1, which tells us whether the opposition is in lead or whether the opposition is not in the lead. If they are in the lead, they will be in an advantage position, in which case their payoff would change. Okay, does it make sense? So if you know, like right now, that everybody is rooting for you, obviously when you go for your next rally or if you plan your next move, it's gonna be different if everybody is not rooting for you. So you're gonna be in two different states when you figure out this value of P. And because you're in two different states, your payoff changes. These are the bonuses that the opposition gets, okay, bonus or drawbacks that the opposition gets when they're in an advantage position, and just likewise when they're in a disadvantage position. Okay, like I said again, because we don't want to go into the details, all this information of the payoffs are inside my document. You can go read it. But I just want to point out the aggressive one. Okay, I think it's important. Both of them, aggressiveness is 0, okay? Meaning to say that whether you're in an advantage position, whether you're in a disadvantage position, if you do an aggressive move, you get no bonuses. Take the example of an insurance salesman, okay? And hypothetically, let's just say they have 6 weeks to sell you insurance. So for the first 5 weeks, he's been very consistent with his product. He's telling you the same product, he's telling you it's gonna be very good. In fact, he was gaining your favor. He was in an advantage position because he was gonna sell it to you. But at the last week, all of a sudden, he dials it up a level and he tries to preach about how good the product is. As a consumer, I'm not sure about you, but you are less likely to believe him now. Because you'll be thinking to yourself, okay, he has got me believing in him, but why all of a sudden he decides to tell me about all these bonuses which I do not necessarily believe. Okay? Same thing at a disadvantaged position. He's trying to sell you the product, you do not believe him now, but towards the end when he uses an aggressive strategy, you are less likely to believe him, okay? Because thinking about it, if you didn't believe him to begin with, obviously being aggressive being aggressive shows a desperation move, which obviously when you're trying to sell something, it's not too ideal. Okay, so whether the state or opposition is in is advantage or disadvantage, really doing an aggressive strategy does not work. And it adds 0 bonuses. Okay, so we change the payoff accordingly. So when the opposition is in an advantage situation, advantage position, the payoff is this. And when they're at a disadvantage position, the payoff is this. Okay, and now we got separate games. Okay, this is separate games where the opposition is in 2 different states: advantage, disadvantage. And we can see for advantage, norm is a dominant strategy, so we can eliminate this and we can eliminate this over here. Okay, it's the dominant strategy. And for disadvantage, we notice that NOT is being dominated. We notice that when the opposition is in a disadvantaged position, they will not play NOT. Okay? Because I think it goes back to our definition of the criteria of the win. The opposition needs to at least do something, so they probably will not want to consider doing nothing at all. So they are left with normal and aggressive. Okay, so what I've done so far, okay, is to start off the initial simultaneous move game and now remodel the game when the opposition is in an advantage situation or when the opposition is in a disadvantaged position, as I've done over here, and have the payoffs accordingly. What we can do now is to move from the simultaneous move game into a 2-player sequential move game. And this is where the opposition can use the strategy of signaling to their advantage. Okay, so what do I mean by a sequential move game? So now, the opposition will decide what they want to do first. Okay, this is the only way that the opposition can capitalize on the asymmetry of information. They have this information that they're sitting with, and they somehow need to show to the PAP that, okay, we're making the first move, and we're gonna keep you guessing what state we are in, right? This number P takes 2 forms, okay? So this is where it gets a bit technical, but I'll try my best to explain to you. This number P takes 2 forms. The form it takes is more of a qualitative form. So you read the news and you say something like, okay, I believe that we are in the lead. You see some of the people in Workers' Party, I believe we're in the lead. Or you see some of the PAP people, I believe we're in the lead. And this would suggest to those who are reading it, in this case would be the oppositions or vice versa would be the PAP, in thinking that, okay, maybe the opposition is in a certain state. If the opposition member says that, I believe that, we are gonna win this GRC, it means that they are trying to say that they are in the advantaged position, okay? But at the same time, what did I bring back about my example about the popularity vote? This value of P can actually be calculated. It's just that in Singapore, nobody does that. You can just look at each constituency, sample a certain size, ask them to vote as if they're voting during the election day, during the voting day, and then you can actually get this value of P. Loss of probability, the loss of large numbers, if you choose the right sample size, you can actually find with great probability what this value of P is. See? And this is where we can create the asymmetry of information. The opposition is sitting in their office knowing the actual value of P, whereas they can show, they can signal if this value of P is good to the PAP that, okay, maybe we are in a disadvantaged position. I'm trying to tell you we're at a disadvantaged position so that the PAP would react in a certain way which increases the payoff of the opposition. And this is how we can use asymmetry of information, and this is all modeled in this two-player sequential move game. Okay, and I'll show it to you via this tree over here, this extensive form tree, which you can understand very easily. So, quickly, the two-player sequential move game. The first thing is that the opposition makes the first move. Now, those of you who know about repeated games may think that this is not such a valid assumption. Okay, you might be saying that, Donnie, but for the past month or for the past few weeks, the opposition has been moving, the PAP has been moving forward. So how can you say that the opposition makes the first move? Well, very simple. If the opposition moves, the PAP moves, and likewise, the opposition's next move can easily be viewed as the first move. So, for example, if on Sunday the opposition moved, on Monday the PAP moved, then on Tuesday then the opposition moved, and that is characterized as the first move. Okay, the theory of repeated games is beyond the scope of this model, so we do not need to bring that. Okay, and number two is that opposition takes the advantage of asymmetry of information. And this fact would be shown in this extensive form game tree where I would lead you through what's going on. Okay, so remember the idea of the asymmetry information is captured by this value of P, and this can be told to the PAP in a qualitative way or in a quantitative way if the opposition chooses to find the value B quantitatively. Okay, so sequential move game, right? Nature is the one that's going to make the initial move. Okay, there's this short distinction of whether nature is making the first move. No, nature just makes a move to decide which state the opposition is in. And then the two states we say just now is that the opposition can be in an advantaged position or the opposition can be in a disadvantaged position. They will be in an advantaged position with a probability P, and they will be in a disadvantaged position with a probability of 1 minus P. Okay, so after that, the opposition being in an advantaged or disadvantaged position would now act. They would now make the first move. And what does our analysis say? Our analysis from the payoff matrix when the opposition is in advantage is that they will always play a normal strategy. The normal move. The normal move is the dominant strategy, and they will always play it. So if the opposition is in an advantaged position, they will always play normal, which brings them over here. Okay, these names over here tells us who's going to make the move. So since the opposition is making the first move, they will move accordingly. Okay. But if the opposition is in a disadvantaged position, we did our analysis, norm not gets dominated, they're not going to play it. So they're either going to play norm or aggressive. Okay, so we can see over here, the opposition is now at a disadvantaged position, they'll either play norm and aggressive. Okay, so now they make the first move. But notice this, now after the opposition has made the first move, the PAP is actually in 3 states. 1, 2, 3. However, and this is key, they are in 2 information sets. Okay, what do I mean by information sets? They have only gotten enough information to draw their conclusions about the opposition. And what are the 2 information sets over here? The first information set is one right here, okay, when you look at the opposition, and the opposition has played norm. As you can see, when the opposition has played norm, they played one time over here and one time over here, but these 2 oppositions are in 2 different states. One is advantageous, one is disadvantaged. But from the point of view of the PAP, they do not know. All they know is that they're looking at the opposition and they're playing norm. Okay, right. And now the second information set is over here. The PAP looks at the opposition and they play aggressive. So as you can see, because the PAP has 2 information sets, but they're in 3 states. This is where we capitalize on the asymmetry of information, where we have hidden certain information from the PAP to make them react in a certain way which works to our benefit. Okay, now for the PAP, obviously, when it comes to their state, they're going to play normal aggressive, right? So all the moves are here, normal aggressive, normal aggressive, normal aggressive, we describe over here. But this time, the payoffs will be read from these tables over here, where the opposition is in 2 different states. Okay, so the PAP is in norm. So we are norm aggressive. So in this case, the opposition is in an advantage position. This would be 3 minus 3. Okay, the opposition is in a disadvantaged position. They play norm, so it's 2 minus 2, and this is 0 minus 1. Okay, so this is our 2-player sequential zero-sum game, and this is the extensive tree form. Now, obviously, we want to find the equilibrium strategy of this, so we're going to convert this to the extensive payoff matrix form, which I've done over here. So here's the extensive payoff matrix over here. We have converted the extensive tree form which we had just